Hello, everybody. Hello. Actually, bear with me. I'm nearly done. I have so much set up for today's stream, slash video, because I'm recording both at the same time. So, hold on just a moment. I'll be right back. Enjoy the music a little bit longer. I'll be right back. Okay. Hi, everybody. Excuse me, I burped. Okay, so I'm really excited about today's stream slash video because I'm going to be streaming this discussion and I'll be editing it later and uploading a video. So I guess you can wait for that if you don't have time to watch me now. La la la, etc, etc. Anyway, I'm really excited because there's tons of new stuff that I had never seen before or heard before that is now available and that the devs are discussing, and it's really exciting. So I wanted to dig in and talk about some of this stuff and kind of showcase, for example, the new music, because it's incredible. The Isle worked with a musician named Anthony Casalena, who you can look up on YouTube. He's an incredible musician, and he did some reworkings of some of the classics, like the song that you hear right now, and some others, like some of the really old Isle music. But he also did some new original music, and just what he's doing with the music is incredible. So I wanted to go ahead and play it in the background, and hopefully I'm not going to get like copyright struck or anything. I did buy the album, so I know that doesn't mean I can just stream it, but I know lots of people are using the music in their videos and streams, and also like the game is going to have all this music in it, and people are going to be streaming the game, and Dondi knows this, so I think it's okay to stream it. So I'm just going to showcase it because it's incredible, and I really think that it will be worth it to showcase it. So anyway, let's get started with what I want to discuss today. Hopefully the music's not too loud. If the music feels like it's overbearing, just let me know, because this stream is not going to be a gameplay stream, but I know some of you are addicts and you need gameplay, so I've created a treat for you. Hopefully this will do. There will be some gameplay up in the corner while we are discussing the devblog. And I've got the devblog up so you guys can follow along whilst I do some reading. And of course, while I'm reading, I also, basically just kind of want to discuss all of this with you guys because I think it's fascinating. So anyway, ignore that we're on my Google account and all that. Let's get started. Subway Server Solution. Hi Spud, hi Ghostwriter. Okay, let's dig in because I'm so excited to talk about all these things. So The devs for the Isle, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but they frequently do updates where I don't know if all of the developers, but a lot of the developers on the team write out blogs and let us know what they've been working on to update the game. I don't know if they're doing it for accountability or just to let players know what they're up to, because players are always like, what's going on? Why haven't we heard anything? Where's my dinosaur? You know, and I think they just like to keep the kids okay, you know. So anyway, my darlings, I want to go over their most recent devblog and discuss some ideas that I've had and like look at the pictures and stuff, because there are some fascinating lore implications, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh bro, what are the devs cooking? This game is going to be so exciting. Like, where it's headed is so exciting. So let's dig in and see what the devs have said to us this time. And there's also a little bit of like confusion going on that I want to point out. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments, because I'm thrown and I'll point it out. But here we go. So Ariel, the programmer, says, this month I mainly worked on the climbing features for the Hypsilophodon and Herarosaurus. The former will be able to latch onto walls and jump around, but not climb around freely like the Herarosaurus. It will also be able to use the spit ability whilst latched and use it to knock down other climbing dinosaurs. I also had to make some changes in the background for the charged jump to work together with the aimed jump using right mouse button. As for the Herarosaurus, it's getting some visual flair. Latching onto walls on its side will first put it into a horizontal orientation. They are going to show us pictures of this later, which are just so cool. Anyway, from in which it can transition into the normal climbing mode. This should help make it not suddenly snap into latched pose after some jumps. I don't play Herarosaurus much, but if you do, you'll know what he's talking about. But this is the point that really stood out to me from what he's saying. There's two, actually. The bit where he said that Hypsilophodon, Hypsies, will not be able to climb, only latch and jump. So he said that, and then he also says this. As usual, there are also various bug fixes and improvements too. I fixed some issues related to the Ceratopsian's thrash changes, and also made some changes to the stagger mechanic because the Triceratops was taking very long to recover. I've also seen some photos of very impressive construction work involving Hypsilophodon nests, but I'm sorry to say that they will no longer be possible. We also have some balance changes in in progress for the Ceratosaurus's bacteria that I should get to the end of soon. So for those of you that play this game and know, you probably know what I'm thinking. So he just told us that Hypsies will no longer be able to build their little Hypsy villages in the trees, because we've heard, I think it was Kissen, I don't want to nail anyone down, but we've heard someone talk about the possibility of Hypsilophodon being able to build nests in the trees, but then turn those nests into like little communities in the trees, and that those nests will have like detritus and waste product from those nests falling down to the forest floor that that will provide food and resources for other animals. So it actually makes Hypsilophodon a productive member of the ecosystem, which is fascinating and a really good idea. But here we're seeing Ariel say that those nests, I'm sorry to say, will no longer be possible. Sorry, you hear my cat screeching in the background. But anyway, so mental note on that one. Moving on to Wedge, the sound designer. He talks about how he's been messing with the Triceratops vocalizations, and he's been changing the volume and pitch and modulation of sounds of like the plants, you know, when you're moving around in the forest and in the bush. I know that anyone who's played on the Horde test will probably have encountered like extremely loud foliage, and a lot of people are saying they really don't like it because it makes sneaking next to impossible, even for animals like Troodon, who is tiny and shouldn't sound like super loud moving through the underbrush, but it's super loud. It's like unbearably loud. So at least we know that this is something that is still being tweaked and worked on. So hopefully that's what he's talking about. But I'm going to move on because so the visual tech, this one is really cool, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on this because I want to show off these pictures. This is so it's so hype. I love it. Just the idea of running around through these buildings as like a smaller dinosaur, hunting humans, or being the humans who are being hunted by a smaller dinosaur inside of these buildings, and taking cover in these buildings from larger dinosaurs, is just so fascinating to me. Ever since I was a child and I had, you know, watched Jurassic Park, I had always been fascinated by the idea of being able to experience something like that in a video game where you get to like interact with dinosaurs inside buildings and be hunted and stuff like that in a theme park setting. Just there's something about the imagery and the I don't know, the experience of Jurassic Park that's so cool that you kind of want to explore that yourself. And for this game to actually be fulfilling that in a way that I've never seen another game do it before is just incredible. And it's so, I'm so excited. So I'm just really excited. But anyway, let's see what Visual Tech 48, who obviously doesn't want to state their name, had to say about the environment. This month has primarily revolved around building the labs, which will soon be featured in the game. It contains a wide variety of areas to explore, from the armory to various offices, testing rooms, and much more. I won't go too much into detail. Instead, I'll show you, which is what's really cool about the devs, by the way. They do stuff like this all the time. But if we have a look here, you can see inside this room, look at the level of detail. There's like a waste bin, and there's boxes with supplies. There's what looks like a laptop with some paperwork on it. I was recently walking through one of the buildings and looking on the desk, and they've got like a pen holder with a notepad and pens and scissors and, you know, little office supplies and stuff, but then they also had a router, like, so the level of detail is really cool. It's very immersive, and this picture itself is just really cool to look at. So moving on, we'll look at this this office photo, where you can sort of see what I was talking about. You can see the file folder organizers, the computer systems, the updated computer chairs, because for a while there was a lot of questions about what is the setting of this story. Are we traveling back to the 90s and doing like 90s retro, but with unfathomable technology for the time? Or is this in the future? Or, you know, what's going on? So some of the technology and the chairs and stuff like that have been updated, which sort of leads me to believe that this is definitely in the future, or in the very near future, or something like that, because all of this technology and whatnot, which is really, really cool. And now we get a photo of one of the labs, and I love this part of it so much, because we get to see sort of the place where all the magic happened, and where these animals maybe were brought to life. And it's not only animals that's happening on this island, it's also plant life. They are doing genetic and bioengineering and all kinds of technology on this island, and it's just fascinating that we get to explore that, and that all of that is going to be in the lore. And I'm really excited to see if there is more than one main story. Like, so I know that there are tribal characters in the game, and you will be able to play as a tribal character. So do you get to do a storyline for the tribal characters and like sort out where they came from? I think it's obvious, but why they're called tribals instead of being called something else? Maybe that's outdated. Maybe they are called something else. But we do know that there's like a more primitive humanoid being that's obviously been mutated or bioengineered in some way. And their relationship to dinosaurs is fascinating, because they use dinosaurs for all manner of resources. Like, they eat them, they use their bones and their teeth for tools, etc, etc. So, and they can also like build their own villages and their own structures in different places on the map. And then you have the more modern humans, and I know we're going to have like soldier / security / mercenaries on the island, but I'm really intrigued as to whether or not we're actually going to get scientists, because if there are different characters like this and they do have scientists, and there's like science lore that we get to explore, I will be so excited. You guys have no idea. I will be so I really hope they do it. But anyway, yeah, so we're having a glimpse at the lab. It literally says lab on this weird wall in the middle there, but and it's numbered, so obviously there's loads of different labs, but this particular quote, lab unquote, doesn't look really like a chemistry lab or anything like that, or like a bioengineering lab. To me it looks more like it looks like they're experimenting with something that requires a lot of room, something with physics or with behavior or something like that. So that's kind of exciting. But we'll move on from this picture. You can see the break room, which we do have something like that in game already. And then you can see more office space, which looks really cool. The level of detail is really, really exciting. The other really cool thing about this image in particular is if you look at the ceiling, it's those like cardboard ceilings that you can push up, and it's, how do you say, it's veiling like a crawl space where lots of like electronic wires and everything are up there, and ventilation and all that other stuff. So that's very similar to Jurassic Park. So I am wondering if they are going to make use of space like that and give us places like that where we can crawl up into, because that would be exciting for small animals, small threats like, for example, Troodon. It would give them an opportunity to be like a huge menace in a very particular setting, which is, you know, cool to think about. So anyway, moving on from that, he says this is just a small glimpse as the area is fully finished and ready to be implemented once the time comes. Here you can see an image of a top-down layout showing the highest floor, but it also gives you an idea about the size of the facility. So this is just the highest floor. Let me see if I can... Oh, it would open in a new tab, so you wouldn't be able to see it. But this is really fascinating. I think this is that lab area that we were looking at where I'm telling you I think it has something to do with mobility or motor function or coordination or physics or something, because there's lots of open space and there doesn't seem to be a lot of services there. But then as you look around the rest of the building, obviously these are the hallways that connect to all the rooms. This looks more like a break room or the conference room. This is the office spaces. It just looks really cool. And the fact that this is just the top floor, this structure is going to be massive. Can you imagine as the humans? So one thing that they've said is the goal of the humans is to get the different facility structures up and operating again. So they've got a radio tower, obviously that will need to you'll need to get that up and working so you can contact the mainland, so you can be extracted, and then you'll need to get different bases up and running and secure so that you can do things like get supplies, food, batteries, tires, vehicles, you name it. Excuse me. You name it. That's like the purpose of going to all these different facilities. So the fact that there's a really big, massive one that doesn't look like it's in the port is really exciting, because the sheer number of human players that you will probably be able to have, or even maybe require, in order to get a big facility like that up and running is really cool to think about, especially because you will be like fortifying that area and dinosaurs are going to want to get in, because dinosaurs fighting each other is super risky and difficult and definitely not as fun as killing humans who are just easy prey. And of course people are talking about guns and stuff like that. Humans will have access to guns, and will that make them OP when they're hunting dinosaurs? And the answers that we get to that question from Dondi directly are things like, do you really want to shoot a gun with your limited ammo and broadcast to animals like a T-Rex and an Omniraptor exactly where you are on the map? You're basically ringing a dinner bell. So before you use a weapon that broadcasts where you are and what you are, you would probably want to make sure that you have like good cover that you can evacuate into immediately, or only use it in a very dire situation. So not only will you only want to use ammo in a dire situation, but also in the past he has said that ammo is not going to be like ubiquitous. It's not going to be readily available with guns just everywhere. You will have to find certain guns, and then you will have to find certain ammunition for those guns, and they will be rare. So unless something has changed, humans I don't think will be super OP. So as we go down, you see Tapwing, who is their two-dimensional artist. She's incredible. She's incredible. The artwork that she does will just blow your mind, and some of the plants that she is crafting are really fascinating. And the reason why, not so much, I mean, the design of these is beautiful and fascinating and alien, but pay really close attention to some of these. Like the pistils look a very particular way. Like this actually looks like a spider, and it looks like underneath there where the pistil is, like there's actually some kind of threat there, which is so exciting. That there will be like hostile plants. And if you are looking at this and thinking, maybe it's poisonous or something, but I don't see how, there will be hostile plants, wait until you see the next couple of images. So this is another version of like that same kind of plant. It looks like ivy, looks relatively harmless, if not kind of creepy. And like the flowers, the petals are doing like some insect mimicry or something. But if we go down to the next bit, this is one of the most fascinating things, a concept that I would not have been able to fathom myself. At least I never have. This is awesome. So there's a kind of plant, I obviously has been bioengineered, called a metallivore. So if we're doing like science language, slash Latin slash medical language, metal obviously means metal, and ivore means that you eat those things. So metallivore instantly tells me that whatever this is eats metal. And as we look at the concept art, you can see this same branch is like changing in different ways, which are not subtle. And it's the texture, and it's more than the texture. It's also sort of like maybe even what it's comprised of. This one looks like it's sort of jagged. This one looks almost like a centipede or something. This one looks kind of normal, but it has like, those centipede things. And this one, you can't read that note there, but these little shoots here, or buds or whatever, these little things here, it says right there, it says adhesive grips or adhesion grips. So some of these plants will be able to like grab onto you and like be sticky, which is kind of scary if you're smaller. And then this one in particular, so the design over here says that these plants, when they're older, like mature, their branches and like the trunk of them and everything is kind of silvery and metallic. But when there's new growth, it's kind of a rusty color. And as you can see, this plant is like adapting or mimicking substances in its surrounding. Like this one looks like a snake skin, and I can't really tell what that could be mimicking, except for maybe it's like the grid design in like a catwalk or something like that, a metallic catwalk. But who knows what that is, but super fascinating. And then we look over here and we see a rubbish bin, like one of those metal rubbish bins, and we see the metallivore plant growing on it. And it says over here, you can't really see this very well, but it says over here, it says a mix of palm trees and strangling fig tree. So that's sort of what the design is supposed to be. And then it says main vines and branches are silvery with, I think that says undergrowth, newer growth, being a rusty color. So, and you can see that very clearly. And in the next image, you will see what the metallivore actually does, and it's super horrifying. So if we look here, this looks like a dinosaur's tail or a lizard tail or something. It even has scoots on its back that mimic the design of how an animal's scales, you know, protect its spine. So I think this plant ate an animal because it's mimicking its physiology and anatomy. But it does say here that when the plant starts, it starts as these like little tree knots, and it slowly expands, and it can expand underground and kind of like burrow underground and reappear in another location. So the same plant kind of traveling underground through its own root system, and its root systems seem to compete with themselves. Like they grow over the top of themselves and sort of compete with itself for purchase and room. But the most fascinating thing is, look at this. This is a lamp post, and it's being completely covered and consumed by a metallivore. And if you look here, these are those, you know, those crates of equipment that are just like all over the human camps and everything, and they're covered in metallivore. So the reason why I think this is really good design is because this gives humans, beyond the need to avoid dinosaurs and tribals, a sense of urgency to get to supplies and certain buildings, because metallivore can consume their supplies. So you need to cull this plant in order to safeguard your supplies, and you need to hurry up and move out to different human structures on the island before the metallivore has eaten through all the supplies that you risked your life journeying out there to get in the first place. This is such incredible game design. It's such incredible motivation in a game setting like the Isle. I'm just so excited to see what other ideas they come up with the botanical life in this game. It's super exciting. It's really, really what's the word I'm looking for? It's groundbreaking. It's different than anything else that I have seen or even read about in books. And I read some fucked up shit. I like lots of, you know, science fiction. So this is just fascinating. I love it so much. But let's move on. He says, this month I've been very focused on drawing, I'm sorry, this is Tapwing, so she. This month I've been very focused on drawing up the concepts for strain plants. So far, there's the metallivore, conceptualized to break down, as the name suggests, the less organic things you'd find around the island. I played with a few different styles of branch and grippers for the plant. Some skeletal-like, with filaments that corrode what they're attached to. Some a little more subtly armored with adhesive grips. The one we wound up going with was a segmented strangler fig inspired ivy, something that could crawl along the ground, burrow, and re-emerge to wrap around metallic objects, break them down, and leave a frame of what was once there, creating a kind of plant ghost of modern structures or objects, which is so cool. That is so cool, bro. The other plant is a little more devious. This is the Mendes, a sneaky carnivorous thing that's helpful one moment and dangerous the next if you're not careful. With that in mind, the design needed to be somewhat inconspicuous. the leaves were to be reminiscent of our ivy that's going to be used on buildings and such in the future. But the flowers and the grippers are where the strangeness begins. Cat's claw creeper was used as inspiration for the hunting mechanism of the plant. Little claws that would run along the nodes of Mendy's vine, turning it into living barbed wire, ready to wrap around any animals that's gotten too comfortable around it. The only indicator of the plant's intentions is the strange flower that changes color when it's about to strike. Oh! That is so cool. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see them add stuff like this. The world will just be so enlivened and enriched with environment that you have to be more cautious around. And I'm also wondering if, so right now you can sort of sink in the mud if you get in the mud, but you only sink to a certain point, and I don't think your life is ever in danger unless you're a tiny, tiny baby. But then I tried going in the mud as a tiny, tiny baby who could possibly drown in that mud, and you don't sink because you're too small. So I do wonder if at some point the mud will be like quicksand and possibly be deadly, but right now it's not. But that would be kind of cool if it was. But anyway, Fred, another 2D artist on the team, says, Marty and I have been quietly cranking out skin patterns for many of our playable animals for the last few months. And then he shows us some of those skins. And he talks about how they are working really hard to make it so that we have a lot of power to customize our own skins, so that we can make skins that look realistic and different from animal to animal, but also appropriate for a dinosaur type animal, which I think is fascinating. And what a job to have, right? If you've ever seen, there's this film called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and one of the characters, her name is Clementine, and she's talking about how she always dyes her hair these ridiculous colors, blue, green, orange. And she's like, someone has that job. Someone has the job of naming these stupid colors. And I just thought it was funny that that's kind of sort of literally what these 2D designers are kind of doing. They're not naming colors, but they're, doing a thing. But the really cool thing about this Suchomimus photo is the gullet here. Do you see this? I think that Suchomimus is going to be the pelican of the Isle. Yes, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind mentioned. But yeah, I think that Suchomimus is going to be the pelican of the Isle. The really cool thing about this animal is it's only a bit bigger than Allosaurus, so it's not quite Spino level, but it's not quite as small as a Baryonyx. But its body plan is also somewhere between a Baryonyx and a Spinosaurus. And so the fact that they're giving it this pelican gullet makes me wonder, like, what's it supposed to shove in there? A bunch of fish? Or, like, its babies? Or what? What's it shoving in that gullet? But yeah, so that's the Sucho he's showing off. And then he's showing off a really cool one that I love looking at. It's the Megarosaurus or Megarosaurus? Magirosaurus? I think it's Megarosaurus. But anyway, so I don't think that there's fossil evidence that suggests that the neck of this animal looks like this. I think this is artistic expression. But the design of this animal is so unique and so cool. And I think, it's armored, obviously. It's got a long tail and a really big muscular neck. And obviously this animal can stomp you. And it has long legs. I wonder if this animal is not going to be a walking hamburger like so many people are assuming it will be. I kind of think this guy is going to be a heavy hitter and ruin a lot of carnivores' days when they think it's going to be easy to take down. I mean, look at those scoots. Those are osteoderms that are massive along its shoulders. It can probably shoulder check you into oblivion. Can shoulder check you into oblivion. It can stomp you with those front legs. It can probably kick with its back legs, but I wouldn't bother when you've got a tail like that with more osteoderms on it. So it's not quite Stegosaurus level. It's not quite Ankylosaurus level, but this tail will ruin your day. Ruin your day. And I mean, look at those teeth. I don't want to be bit by that. So I don't think that this animal's going to be a pushover. And I'm really excited to see how they design this animal's self-defenses. And then we have what looks to me like a Giganotosaurus. In my opinion, Carcharodontosaurus are so boring. And I know everyone's going to unfollow me now, but I think he said something about wanting us to guess who some of these other animals are down here. I don't fucking know. I'm not going to guess. I don't know. But I'm kind of leaning Albertosaurus with this one. This one I just have no clue. But I think this one is the monitor lizard thing. But anyway, Brian the animator says, for me, most of this month has been lots of little things going on. I've been working with the Ostroraptor. That's my favorite one! Oh, hi, Banoon. I don't know what we are looking at, but dinosaurs are dragons, so I like it. Yes, Banoon. Basically, yes. When I was little, I liked dinosaurs before I liked dragons. But, and it was funny because I was snobby about it too. I was like, I'm not going to like dragons because they didn't really exist and dinosaurs did, so dinosaurs are cooler. Like, but as I grew up a little bit and, you know, matured, I realized how fucking cool dragons are regardless. And I fully agree with you. Dinosaurs, dragons, 100%. So yeah, he's been working on Ostroraptor, which is my favorite. I cannot wait. He says getting it sorted out for implementation and doing some Kentrosaurus locomotion. Kentro, for those of you who don't know, Kentrosaurus is like a smaller Stegosaurus with way more spikes and fewer plates. And it also has shoulder spikes. So if we're talking about shoulder checking people into oblivion, those shoulder spikes are like 3 feet, 4 feet long. So yeah, Kentro's out to ruin someone's day as well. We want Kentrosaurus to be in a good spot speed-wise, so it's a little bit faster than the Stegosaurus, because we know how you Stegosaurus players are. And that's very true. There's this weird stigma around Stegosauruses in the Isle community, because everybody who plays a Stegosaurus wants to be like the Isle police officer and stop predators from hunting prey and stop one animal from killing another and just kill everybody. It's ridiculous. So I do think that smaller herbivores do need to be faster than Stegosaurus. Especially animals that are basically just a smaller version of Stegosaurus should definitely be faster. And anyway, Kentrosaurus looks kind of fast. It's a live version of a Stegosaurus, so I think it's appropriate. Anyway, I've also been working on Eldermorphs for all of the current roster, as well as all the upcoming beasties who have been rigged. That and crab walkies. I don't know what he's talking about with crab walkies, but I was guessing that perhaps he's talking about maybe they're working on sea life, and maybe when you forage for a crab as a biped and perhaps an osteoraptor, maybe they'll be able to walk along the seafloor instead of just floating up and swimming. But who knows? So Hypno, the QA lead, says, "We're now on the verge of releasing our latest build to the horde test for the Triceratops. This will be the last patch for Triceratops before we move on to Tyrannosaurus testing, which I know you are all eagerly awaiting for. Over the past month, QA has been finding all manner of bugs within the horde test, from simple issues such as finding holes in the map that players have been getting stuck in, people being knocked off by bushes when latching with a pounce, fish not spawning in certain areas of the map, to some attacks dealing knockdowns but no damage at all. Rest assured, the patch we will be releasing within the next few days will be rectifying a lot of those issues and bringing some much needed performance improvements. Thank goodness, because horde test is nearly unplayable. It's bad. But anyway, Tyrannosaurus is coming along very well now and will be ready for testing publicly very soon. It has an ambush speed mechanic similar to the one present in Legacy, without the need to crouch first, which, if you've played the Isle Legacy, you'll know if you crouch for like 3 seconds, 4 seconds, suddenly your stamina bar starts blinking, and that's telling you that you have a speed buff for your sprint. So if you break into a sprint from that crouch position once your stamina bar is blinking, you will have this mad dash burst of run speed that lasts for like 10 seconds or something like that. And what this allows you to do is sneak up close enough to get a really good ambush on a smaller animal that can outrun you like in a dead run. So it's really good for larger carnivores that need to be able to get the jump on something that is faster than them. It gives them the opportunity to find food when there isn't something closer to their size for them to mess with, which is very, very necessary for the larger carnivores because they will require so much food. So I think it's a really good mechanic, and I'm excited to see how it works for T-Rex. But they're saying here that you won't have to crouch first, so I wonder exactly how you need to employ it. But anyways, he says it gives the character increased sprint speed at the cost of higher stamina drain. Perfect for catching those that you have to be able to sneak up on. Coupling this with its crush ability makes for a deadly combination. The Tyrannosaur's crush ability responds differently to its target depending on their weight. If a creature is small enough, such as a Dryosaurus, the ability will grab and pick them up, allowing the Tyrannosaurus to thrash them against the ground, instantly killing the target. Those that are killed this way will see their bodies being slammed into the ground, which makes for a brutal display of the character's strength. These execution-style kills are something that we've talked about potentially extending to other species as well, which is very exciting for raptors, because I think if raptors pin something when they pounce, or grapple it to the ground, I think it would be really cool if you reward raptors, like if they kill it whilst it's pinned or grappled, if you reward them with a really gory scene of like eating their prey alive and it doesn't die until they've taken a few bites or something like that. Pretty gruesome, I know, and I sound nutters now, but as a raptor, you know, really cool, because that prey item probably killed one of your pack mates. That's what raptor life is like. So the more you own them, you know, the better it will feel for raptors. But anyway, when knocking down a medium-sized creature such as a Ceratosaurus, the crush will knock them down to the ground, allowing the Tyrannosaurus to maul them. This does a tremendous amount of damage, and more often than not, will kill the target or leave it with critically low health. Hitting a larger creature will result in the crush ability either staggering the target or, if too large, simply dealing damage. Those that have been set up to interact with sparring will increase will instead enter the state with the Tyrannosaurus, such as the Triceratops, locking its horns with its jaws. I'm not going to play this video because I think it will mess up. I don't know if I can play it. Okay, it's not messing up. But you can see here what they're trying to do. It looks so ridiculous. But they are trying to make it so that Triceratopses can grapple with themselves like that, like can lock their horns and fight like bulls or deer or whatever. But T-Rex will also be able to grab onto a Triceratops or other T-Rexes, or even like a Dibble, and kind of have like a war of might between these two incredible animals, which will be really amazing to see as a not one of those two animals. But I'm sorry, something tells me if a Triceratops started thrashing when a T-Rex is biting like that, it could do some very seriously, like, probable death injury to that T-Rex. Because its face is right there, and it's not as armored as the Triceratops is, and the Triceratops is quadrupedal, so it has, it's so much more, what do you call it? When you have, like, stability? It has that advantage of stability. And I think it obviously weighs more, so yeah, it'll be really fascinating to see these two titans face off. And now we're coming to my favorite Dev and seeing what she has to say. And this brings us back to the beginning when Ariel was talking about Hypsilophodon and their ability to climb and their ability to leverage. Thank you, Reaver. Their ability to climb, but also their ability to build little communities in the treetops. So Kissen Kitten, the producer, my favorite developer, says, gonna keep this one kind of short. Oh yeah, just prefacing her little bit of information. She literally tells us in the beginning that she's gonna keep it short because she's busy. But this is the first time I've ever seen her write something where it literally looks like she could not wait to be done writing it. Like, I believe her that she's busy. But she says here, gonna keep this one short as there's much to do. This month has been a lot of tweaks made all around. We're still hammering away on the issues presented on the Horde test. Animation changes, map changes, balance changes, optimization changes, AI changes, and many others. So while that's being a lengthy cook, we're working on other things, which is customary. The Ostroraptor is looking pretty sleek, definitely has a different look and feel to it compared to other animals on the roster, in my opinion. We did have to correct a hierarchy issue that was fairly annoying, but we knocked it out pretty quickly when it came into focus. Mostly just re-exporting and re-importing, but tedium consumes time all the same. Anyway, it's a very live animal, so I'm curious to see how it measures up, especially in your hands. I'm also really curious about that because the interesting thing about Ostroraptor is it's about the same size as Utahraptor, which the Omniraptor is highly influenced by, so roughly the same size as an Omniraptor, but much more lightly built. We're talking about like the difference between, like, I don't know, like a shoebill stork and like a blue heron or something like that. Like there's a huge amount of girth that is the difference between an Omniraptor and an Ostroraptor. So even though they're like the same height and length, the Ostroraptor is much lighter. So I imagine it will die much faster and not be able to take as many hits. So hopefully it is a bit faster than the other raptors and has some other methods of escape. because I'm sort of foreseeing Osteoraptor's going to have a bit of a hard time, because if it's not fast on land, then it's going to be fast in the water. But if its only escape is to jump in the water where there are crocodiles and bipes and baryonyx and all these other animals, I just feel like that's not necessarily safer. And with it being sort of like a coastal shoreline type animal, it will also have to contend with Herrerasaurus, who will be dropping down on it from the trees and probably one-shotting it, because Herrerasaurus's damage is ridiculous. So I definitely think there's going to be they're going to need to have a lot of balance changes in order for certain animals to be feasible contributors to the ecosystem. And I think making Osteoraptor a glass cannon that is fast on land and in the water, and speed and agility and stealth being its strengths, is the only thing that makes a lot of sense to me for it to be like a feasible animal in the ecosystem. But anyway, I'm talking about it a lot because I'm really excited for Osteoraptor. It's like my favorite animal that's coming. I'm more excited for it than I am for T-Rex. Anyway, moving on. Here's where she says something that really confused me. And I'm going to scroll up just so that we can really cover this, because I'm shook. But anyway, she says, I was able to get some more work in on the Hypsilophodon. Not only can it climb, she says it can climb, but it can also spit while slatched, which makes them even more annoying than they already are. But more than that, it assists the Hypsilophodon in defense of its treetop nests, which may be of interest to other island inhabitants. So she said two things here that are in direct opposition to something that Ariel said. She said Hypsies can climb and they are still making treetop nests. I'm going to scroll back up to what Ariel said. Ariel said, way up here, the Hypsilophodon will be able to latch on walls and jump around, but not climb around freely like the Hera. So it can latch and jump, but it cannot climb. And then Ariel says down here, I've also seen some photos of very impressive construction work involving Hypsilophodon nests, but I'm sorry to say that they will no longer be possible. So Ariel is a programmer, and Kissen Kitten is a producer. So I don't know which of them is incorrect here, or if maybe they wrote their blogs at different times and one of them is giving more reliable information than the other. But we are getting a dispute of information here. Something different from Kissen than we are from Ariel. So that's very confusing. And I'm not one of those people that goes into the thing and asks questions. I know that Hypno and Kissen are frequently there to answer questions. If one of you happen to be watching this and are one of those people that goes and asks questions, if you could clarify with Kissen, I would be tremendously grateful. I'm sure someone else has caught this. I'm sure that someone else will be wanting to ask her the same thing. So yeah, community warriors, please ask for clarification on whether or not Hypsies can climb and whether or not Hypsies can build tree houses. So moving on to Pteranodon, it's still in the works. Additional aerial animations to help gameplay feel more alive when you're flying, as well as terrestrial characterization, movement and attacks to help players feel more comfortable and capable on the ground. And I'll say, as a Terra player, kind of like my third most played animal, behind Raptor and Troodon, I fully agree that it's tremendously weak on the ground, and Dondi has said things like he doesn't like that there's a dinosaur that can just be in the air all the time and never has to come down for consequences unless it's getting a drink, which it can drink salt water and just fly well away from any danger and drink safely. So I don't think he likes how unpunishable it is. But I think giving it more terrestrial coordination and better movement, and making it not only feasible but more comfortable to move on ground, and to also like actually attack and maybe kill prey, is a very good idea for a lot of reasons. Not the least of which is that I do believe Pteranodon probably was a capable terrestrial animal, just like most Azdarchids were. And I know that Pteranodon is not an Azdarchid and was probably, you know, a piscivore. But most animals Pteranodon size, who probably behave like a Pteranodon, are probably opportunists to some degree, just like pelicans are, just like storks are, just like other animals that would live similar lives, like seagulls, etc. And they eat pretty much anything that they can slide down their gullet. So I sort of think that Pteranodon would probably behave the same way, probably running across beaches, rocks, and other things like that, chasing down small prey items when it's not, plucking fish from bodies of water. So I think it's a really good change. I'm excited for it. The only thing I think that Pteranodon needs that they're not giving it is a very slow ability to maybe shimmy side to side when it's latched, or move up and down when it's latched, or, one or the other, or whatever, or both. Because I just don't think it makes a lot of sense for Pteranodon to not be able to climb. We're talking about a bird-like, bat-like animal that can latch onto walls and surfaces and stuff. It just doesn't make sense for it not to be able to climb. And that also extends to Hypsy. If an animal can latch onto a surface like that, I think to some degree it should be able to climb, even if it's really rudimentary climbing and not something that you'd want to do to like climb up a whole mountain or something like that, or a whole entire tree. But climbing just a little bit makes sense to me. So hopefully they will take Pteranodon and Hypsy in that direction with enough outcry from gamers, which I have no doubt whatsoever will come eventually. But anyway, so then she talks about Kentrosaurus, and she says, is wandering around in its holding pen awaiting release on the island. That will transpire once some of the other new additions have a firm footing, which I think she's talking about Ostro. And I think she might be talking about Baryonyx as well. And I'm really excited for Baryonyx and Ostro to be added, because once they are added, the semi-aquatic ecosystems will just feel so much better, because now we have Hypsies, we have Gators, we have Berries, we have Ostros, and Terras, and all of those animals kind of gravitate toward the water, and Haras do too, to a certain extent, to live their lives there because they eat fish and, prey on each other and each other's young. So the watering holes will be far more lively, and that makes life for terrestrial animals a lot more exciting. Because every time you go to drink, you're not just going to a barren place on the map where you have to watch for other things that might either jump out of the water at you that are hiding below the surface or attack you from behind while you're drinking, but literally you're going to walk up to a body of water that is a thriving ecosystem in and of itself. And that just makes the world feel alive and is just good game design in my opinion. So I do think it's desperately needed for the game. So anyway, Baryonyx is well on its way to being animation complete. Just another set or two and we'll be in a nice position. Of the 3 Spinosaurids we have, it's the most agile and flexible, able to do things the others may not excel at in the same fashion. Each should feel unique to one another despite overlapping territories. And more than just overlapping territories, they have a lot of overlapping like anatomy, physiology, body plans. So I am interested to see how they make so many animals that are so similar, different enough that, for example, like between playing a Dibble or a Triceratops, really the biggest difference is the kind of animals you'll be able to defend yourself against, what your run speed is like, and how long it takes to grow. So I kind of foresee, like, when it comes to surviving, and like being a fighter or whatever, who's gonna pick Dibble unless they just like Dibbles? So I think the Dibble population, once Trike is in, is going to disappear. I mean, I've played Isle Legacy, so I know people still play Dibble even though they can be Trike. But I do think that, you know, if some animals do make others obsolete, they can, and they do, if the game does not in some way draw a good enough distinction between these animals and their similarities. So and I know that the developers know this because they've talked about it and they've addressed it with people who've expressed their concerns. So I'm just excited and really interested to see what creative way the devs implement those kinds of changes and that kind of diversity between animals that have so much overlap in not only their territories and that, you know, the way they live their lives, but also in body plan and design, etc. So anyway, moving on, she says also more work on humans. Really looking forward to giving them the full focus they need, as I've mentioned before. Pleased with the results thus far though. There's also more work on elders, skins, environment models, and more. Till next time, take care. So, yeah, she's definitely in a hurry. Some of what she wrote here, like the sentence structure was weird and stuff, and I've never seen her do that. So I definitely think she wanted to hurry up and like get to her next project, which is kind of cool. They are doing so much, you guys. And I don't know if you've realized, but the music that's playing in the background of this stream has been an entire album of the official soundtrack of the Isle Evrima. The Isle worked together with, his name is Anthony Casalena, to create this beautiful, rich music. It's gorgeous. And it's also frightening. It's also very, like, anxiety-inducing. So I found it on iTunes. I still do iTunes. I do iTunes and Spotify, so don't judge me. I'm not a boomer. But I do iTunes because I like to feel like I own something, even though there's literally no difference. But I don't know, I'm weird. Okay. But anyway, so I bought it on iTunes because it was there. So I have the whole album. So that's why I thought, I don't think anybody in the community has really, I've never heard anyone talking about this music, and I don't think a lot of people have heard it, and it's incredible. And So I just wanted to put it in the stream and just see what you guys think and just have it there. But anyway, so she's talking about humans. Adding humans is going to be incredible. I think a lot of us can't wait for humans just as much as we can't wait for T-Rex. And I know there's a lot of people really toiling over the addition of humans into this dinosaur game, because I think a lot of people really do prefer to play the Isle as like a dinosaur escapism type game. But I will draw your attention to the fact that most of the dinosaurs in the Isle are in some way fundamentally paleontologically inaccurate or flawed. Not saying that the dinosaur design in game is bad or poor in any way or inaccurate. It's a million times better than, for example, Jurassic Park's dinosaur design. But there are things that are just not correct. Like, for example, Omniraptor obviously doesn't exist. The equivalent animal that it was originally supposed to be is the Utah raptor, and we know that most dromaeosaurids were, and not even most, but every single dromaeosaurid that we have come to study that is smaller has been feathered, and some of them even have been caught in like amber, and the feathers are in amber, and they have like mites on their feathers and stuff. So they're a very feathered animal, and it's just highly probable that Utahraptor probably also had, at least to some degree, a feathered body, because it's in a family of animals that so many others were feathered. So anyway, that's the whole thing. I'm not going to keep going. But my point is for people who are playing this game because they want dinosaur escapism and stuff, I can relate to a certain degree. And I do want to, because I don't know how often it's said or whatever, but I do want to just like put out there that the devs have said on multiple occasions that people on private servers will be able to change the settings in order to do things, for example, like make it dinosaurs only, and not only dinosaurs only, but whichever species you prefer to be playable on this server. Like if you think this one animal is OP and everybody always picks this animal and you don't want it to just fuck up your ecosystem, you can not include that. If you don't want any humans, you can disable them. If you don't want whatever animal you don't want, you can disable them and make your server the way you want your server to be. So that's really cool. And the fact that they are giving their players so much of what their players want, whilst also creating the game that they wanted to make, to me speaks volumes about the devs that we're working with here. They have done so much to change this game because of player request and player pressure. That was not their intention, and I think that goes unsung, like unpraised quite a lot. And so I just think it's well worth mentioning that that these devs are incredible, bro. And yes, they're taking a long time, but they're a really small team, and what they're doing really is groundbreaking. It's different than what anyone else has done with a dinosaur game. And for it to be like in the Jurassic Park type genre, it's also different than any other game of its kind. So I'm just really impressed. And it sucks it's taking so long, but someone said something some time ago that was really good that I can't recall, but it's something to do with, you know, good things and you have to be patient for them, you know? Like, putting time into something to make it good is better than rushing it and getting slop that you spend the same amount of time wishing could be better, or even more time wishing that it could be better, because the slop that you're left with is the end result that you, for whatever reason, will never change. So I think it's good that they are going as far as they are to make the game not only what they wanted to make, but also something that their player base is really excited to engage with. So really, really cool of them. And now I'm just going to look through some of the animations that Kissen was talking about for the baryonyx. You can see this. I don't know what that is. It must be a call. Like, it might be like the friend call or something. But it also looks a little bit like it's shaking water off of its face or out of its eyes or something, or maybe the Hipsy spit at its eyes or something, I don't know. But really cool animations. They look really good. I love this. Oh, and there's swimming animations here, which I also really like that. Like, maybe they've got scent glands in between their toes like cats do, and they claw the ground to show, like, these are my big claws, but also smell me. But they can do this mating dance, this mating ritual in the water or on land, which is really cool. But what's really cool is the way that they made baryonyx swim. I also like this. This is their pinned / grappled animation. So yeah, the pinned / grapple animation is really, really cool. And then this, I guess that's the sit animation, but that doesn't really make sense. Oh no, she's laying eggs. That's a female laying eggs. Okay. There's the broken leg. That's a cool attack. I don't know what that is, but that's, I mean, obviously it's a slash, but I don't know why we're slashing the ground like that. But that's the swimming animation I was talking about. Really cool looking, the way it's moving its body. That's just so cool. That is so cool. It looks so good. They must be so proud of the way these dinosaurs look. They look great. And this must be what Barry looks like when it's idling. Just like an alligator, like where just this part of its head is above the surface of the water, and it's spy hopping and waiting for something to go by, and with like duckweed or whatever being on it, it could just look just like a log or a rock or whatever. So really, really cool animal design. Here's the Hara that they were talking about. Gets this horizontal latch, which looks very natural. I actually think that they should implement this animation along with, like, when you are trying to get your jump pounce as a Hara. If it was doing this before it jumped, that would also look much better, I think, than having it be latched on with, you know, all fours and like jumping off that way. This looks much better in my opinion. Looks really, really good. Here's the Hipsy being latched and spitting, which also looks really cool. Can't wait to see Tweaks have fun with that. I don't know what this is. This is a Terra flopping about. There's the Kentro. Run speed looks pretty good. Some of the walking and running animations on some of these animals looks very questionable to me. Like, for example, the slow walk, like the Z walk of Omniraptors looks really stupid to me. I don't like it at all. But I really like the Kentro's walk, but I don't really like its sprints. Its trot looks okay. But anyway, there's Albertosaurus. And then we're gonna see the elder Albertosaurus. I like that the differences are kind of subtle, but also kind of obvious. It's just so much bulkier, so much more menacing an animal. And this is the Megalania, I think it's called. Big, giant Australian monitor lizard. I'm interested to see how they implement this creature into the world as well. I think it's kind of going to just be like a land dino. Like Meta's always saying land dino. But this is literally going to be land dino. And I kind of hate that actually. The para looks really good. The elder para looks brilliant. And that's it for this devblog. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you think about the difference between what Kissen said about Hypsis being able to climb and build tree houses, and Ariel saying that Hypsi cannot climb and tree houses are impossible. Let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know if you liked this and if you want to see me do more, because I've been thinking about doing this sort of thing for a long time now, because I love talking about this stuff and I have so many ideas, and I hear other people talk about their ideas with the Isle, and I don't really I don't share a lot of the ideas that I'm hearing, and I don't hear the ideas that I'm sharing. So I just wonder if, I don't know, if in some way my opinions are valuable to someone out there or interesting for someone out there to think about. But anyway, guys, if you liked this, let me know. I might do it again. And if you didn't like it, maybe I'll never do it again. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me. I really hope you liked the new music. Again, give it a listen. It's from Afterthought by the Isle and Anthony Kissen. Incredible music, beautifully done. I love it so much. But also check out the art, because Tapwing has tons of it, and she's an artist that does things outside of just the Isle. So her art is incredible. Definitely recommend checking her out. I think she's on DeviantArt. I think that's where Dondi found her actually, because she's a deviant artist, but she's also like a big The Isle fan, and I remember when he hired her, and it was like super cute how she was a fan and she got hired on the team for her incredible art. So, but anyway, yeah, check these artists out. And if you like my little logo design here, Kate the Kind, also check out my friend and someone who has worked on helping me with multiple thumbnails and the aesthetic of my channel, rivuperson. He's an incredible musician and he's a wonderful person and he's a good friend, so definitely give his stuff a look and listen. And I love you guys, and I will talk to you later.